And we begin with breaking news. Honolulu police are responding to a barricade situation in Makakilo. Officers shut down a section of Akaula Street between Nohono and A'ahuali'i streets at around 8:45 this morning. HPD's Specialized Services Division and negotiators are currently at the scene, and our crew there saw police using a megaphone to try and communicate with the person or persons inside.
And we got more breaking news to talk about as we take a live video feed coming in to our H&N Digital Center from our traffic cameras. The Poly Highway is closed in both directions due to a downed utility pole. You can see the work going on right there from this traffic camera. This is Townside in Nu'uanu. I also got some pictures sent to our newsroom I want to share with you. We're told that the line was accidentally brought down during highway improvements. That's what DOT is telling us, and you can see that down line in these pictures that were just sent to our newsroom a short time ago. Drivers are advised to seek alternative routes. Boy, hate it when the Poly gets shut down, that's for sure. We also got more breaking news into our newsroom. The latest numbers being reported by the State Department of Health.
The state is reporting 436 new COVID infections today. The breakdown by island shows 76 cases on the Big Island, 33 on Maui, 3 on Molokai, 15 on Kauai. Oahu has 292 and 17 people diagnosed out of state. Officials say 246 people are now hospitalized with COVID. That's up 21 from yesterday. Governor Ige and the county mayors are expected to announce new COVID restrictions today. There's a 1:30 press conference coming up, and we'll bring that to you live on air and on all your H&N digital platforms.
Now to the story everyone is talking about today. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is resigning. This comes a week after an investigation found he sexually harassed 11 women. Elise Preston has the latest developments from New York City.
In my mind, I've never crossed the line with anyone.
After weeks of fighting, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he will leave office in the interest of the people he represents.
I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing.
His announcement comes a week after an independent investigation found the three-term Democratic governor sexually harassed multiple women.
There is a difference between alleged improper conduct and concluding sexual harassment. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that there are not 11 women who I truly offended. There are. And for that, I deeply, deeply apologize.
Brittany Commisso, identified as Executive Assistant Number 1 in the Attorney General's report, spoke exclusively with the Albany Times Union and CBS this morning.
He walked over, shut the door so hard, came back to me, and that's when he put his hand up my blouse and cupped my breast over my bra.
New York Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul released a statement saying Cuomo's resignation was the right thing to do. She takes over as the state's first female governor in 2 weeks. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
We've got more new news to talk about coming out of Washington, D.C. A bipartisan group of senators have passed a $1 trillion infrastructure package. Senator Brian Schatz says at least $2.8 billion will come to Hawaii for clean energy, electric vehicles, public transportation, and road improvements. Senator Mazie Hirono called it a, quote, historic investment. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer delivered remarks ahead of the final passage of the bill.
It's been a long and winding road, but we have persisted, and now we have arrived. There were many logs in our path, detours along the way, but the American people will now see the most robust injection of funds into infrastructure in decades.
The bill's passage provides momentum as it now heads to the House. Meanwhile, the Senate turns next to Biden's bigger package, a $3.5 trillion plan with debate likely to extend into the fall. Today, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell took aim at the Democrats' priorities.
People want to pretend this is just business as usual, just liberals doing liberal things using Senate procedure. Make no mistake, This reckless taxing and spending spree is nothing like we've seen, nothing. The basic math of their taxing and spending is toxic enough, but the radicalism that we'll be debating on the floor goes well beyond dollars and cents. The policies they want to put behind this budget resolution read like somebody walked across the rotunda to the House and handed the squad a pen and piece of paper.
Police say 29-year-old Keaumoku Tau'ala will be charged with murder after a woman she's accused of running over died. The victim is identified as 19-year-old Nehila Ann Scanlon. Police say Tau'ala intentionally crashed into her and another woman during a fight in a Keaumoku parking lot on Saturday. Tau'ala's bail was set at $300,000. Despite some pushback, the State Department of Education is standing by its policy of mandatory vaccines for student athletes. Here's DOE Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi.
Extracurricular activities, including athletics, are important, but it's secondary to education of students in the classroom. So participation actually in extracurricular activities, including athletics, is a privilege. And thus, we're able to require reasonable restrictions for participation.
The local demand for COVID tests is way up. Urgent Care Hawaii says clinics are seeing 200 patients a day, twice their capacity. They say there's shortages of rapid tests, so people must often wait 48 hours for a PCR test. Here's the CEO of Urgent Care Hawaii, Donna Smith.
The demand for COVID testing is overwhelming for all of the facilities. And here at Urgent Care Hawaii, we have a lot of people coming in. Their employers are sending them in because there was an exposure at work, but they're not able to say what type of exposure, how close, how long, what are the specifics of it. Because of the confidentiality at work, they don't know who it was. So the employer will send everybody up to get tested and ask for a negative test before they can return. And a lot of those people don't need to be tested. Testing really depends upon, are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? Do you have symptoms? What type of exposure it was, how long the exposure was, etc. And we just don't get that information, and the employees aren't getting it. And so we're screening people. The nurse will call and ask questions and let them know you don't need a test, or come back in 3 days, that's the right time for a test. But it takes a lot of time to register them, screen them, and that's what the long waits are for. The other thing are schools. The whole class will be told to come get tested, and they may or may not be, and we're talking little kids getting tested. So I know it's really confusing, and there's a lot of confusing information. However, getting something that's really solid that people can all depend on, and getting a message out to the community that these are the parameters, and make it common knowledge, like wearing a mask and staying 6 feet apart will be really helpful.
The U.S. is now averaging more than 100,000 new COVID cases a day, and this comes as thousands of unvaccinated children return to school. Deborah Alfarone has more.
COVID hospitalizations in Florida are higher now than at any other point during the pandemic. And as hospitals scramble to find available beds, ambulances are being forced to wait outside with emergency patients. In Houston, Texas, one hospital has erected a tent to handle the overflow. It's a similar story at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee, where the staff is burnt out.
When patients get admitted to us, almost all of them are unvaccinated. And I think that adds a little bit of the exasperation effect.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says the number of children contracting COVID-19 has increased 5-fold since the end of June, with an 84% jump in August.
Delta is so contagious that more people in the unvaccinated community are going to get it than with previous variants.
The latest wave comes as children across the country head back to school and communities grapple with mask mandates. Florida's governor today defended his executive order banning mask mandates in Florida schools.
It's about parental choice, not government mandate.
Some schools say they'll defy those orders and require masks. The White House weighed in this afternoon with a message to state leaders like DeSantis regarding young children who are yet to be eligible to be vaccinated.
If you're not interested in following the public health guidelines to protect the lives of people in your state, then get out of the way. Let local officials do their job to keep students safe.
In Texas, Dallas public school students will be required to wear masks when they return next week. The school superintendent issued a temporary mask mandate Monday in defiance of Governor Greg Abbott. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
All right, we have a couple of breaking news updates we want to tell you about, beginning with that barricade situation that was unfolding.
That's right. Our crew at the scene says that a suspect is now in police custody. Again, a suspect is in police custody at that barricade situation in Makakilo. This happened on Akaula Street between Nohona and A'ahuali'i Streets. Police have a suspect in custody.
Also, we want to update you on that Poly Highway situation. A tweet just came out from DOT. They are saying that utility line repair is underway. They anticipate opening all lanes before the afternoon commute. They say they will keep us updated. That is certainly good news for anyone who's about to hit the roads. All right, let's get a check of your weather. Here's Guy Hoggy.
Aloha on this Tuesday. We've got nice weather on the way, although a couple of changes coming because the remnants, the leftovers of what used to be Tropical Storm Jimena, now passing to the north of the state. That means there's a higher chance for a few more showers for the east end of the state. For Maui and the Big Islands, windward sides, they'll likely see a few more showers through tomorrow. Also, the winds are going to be a little bit lighter today. That will lead to higher humidity levels. We're still expecting lots of leeward sunshine, and because of that, that UV index is extreme today at 12. High temperature getting to 89, but because of the lighter winds, it's going to feel more like the mid-90s. Now, also exciting is the surf. It's going to be building on south and west shores. These are the numbers from the National Weather Service. Not a really big swell, below advisory levels, but still good size. 6 to 8 foot wave faces through tomorrow, probably. So those light winds and those scattered windward and Mauka showers will continue through tomorrow. Drier conditions due back by Thursday. Breezy winds to start the weekend just ahead. We'll have more details on air and online.
80 years after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, some of the sailors and Marines who died on the USS Arizona have yet to be identified. The remains of 85 crewmen are buried in graves at Punch Bowl that are marked unknown. Now some families are begging the military to try to identify them, but the Defense POW MIA accounting agency says it lacks sufficient medical and dental records and DNA samples. Randy Stratton is leading a petition drive that urges the DPAA to identify the Arizona's missing and to use DNA testing like those ancestry sites use. When Jim Mendoza spoke with Randy, he said he's willing to coordinate the collection of the DNA samples from relatives.
And we don't understand why, especially with them being right in the backyard too as well, like the other, the Oklahoma guys. I mean, we just don't understand it.
What have you heard from the DPAA? What are they saying? What the reasoning for not doing it?
Well, when it first started, it was Kelly McCabe was saying, okay, we're going to clump all of them together and we're going to put them back on board. Well, you do that, you've got to be cremated. And once that happens, the DNA is gone. So we thought, no, you're not doing that. So we contacted Wimbush, which is second in command, contacted Rear Admiral Banji, who's third in command. I have not talked to Kelly McCabe at all. We said, no, you're not going to do that. So we got on the horn with them, had some different conversations with them. And then Rear Admiral Banji said, we're not gonna put the guys back on board. I said, well, good, that's good that way, but we want them identified. Well, now they've switched it even more where, nope, we're not even gonna identify them at all anymore.
That doesn't sit well with you folks, right?
Oh, not at all. I mean, especially with the new DNA that's out there, we have two outside companies that said, hey, we could come in and do this. We'll do it for free. They don't even have to worry about it. We'll get it done. And the one company, it's called Andre Corporation out of Longmont, Colorado. They identified al-Baghdadi when he blew himself up. So they have the highest clearance possible they were on the helicopter with all their stuff when they flew in. Why wouldn't they be able to get in there and do it? He goes, I could do this, Randy. We could get this done.
Let's get to some other news now. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's in the Pacific Ocean and it contains plastic waste twice the size of Texas. Kenya is one of many countries contributing to that pollution. Hundreds of tons of plastic waste created every day in the capital city of Nairobi alone. That's where Deborah Pata met a young woman who's finding a very inventive way to tackle the problem.
There are days in Kenya when you can actually walk on water. This river is choking with so much plastic, it's formed an unsinkable foundation. A disturbing health hazard for everyone living here, except this young woman.
So I get excited when I see waste because I know that's life for us.
The fact that plastic does not sink is precisely what intrigued material scientist Nzambi Matia.
I came across this concept of using plastic to building blocks.
In 2017, Kenya outlawed single-use plastic bags, but it's still everywhere, clogging drains, polluting rivers, contaminating animal feed. Some of it ends up here in Nairobi's Dandora landfill, which long reached its capacity and was supposed to be closed down 20 years ago. But every day, waste pickers trudge through the rancid trash, sifting for plastic. Plastic that Matia had to figure out how to turn into bricks.
When you made your first brick, how was that?
That was the best day ever. It took us about 9 months just to make one brick.
But one brick wasn't enough. No problem for a woman who likes to get her hands and pretty much everything else dirty. So she built a machine to mass produce the plastic bricks. First, the waste is sorted to remove rubble and metals.
And then you're going to bake it.
Exactly. Figure, if you know how to make cookies, this is just making cookies.
I could make a brick, are you saying?
Exactly.
The boiling mixture is molded into building blocks, as many as 2,000 a day, 35% cheaper than standard bricks and up to 7 times stronger.
Pretty impressive.
Yep, it doesn't break.
Currently, Matia's bricks are only used for pathways in small households, but she wants to target big construction companies next. Compounding Kenya's fight against plastic is that 2 years ago, the US exported more than 1 billion pounds of plastic waste to 96 nations, including Kenya, and now wants to make the shipment of plastic a condition of a proposed trade deal. Greenpeace activist Amos Wemanya believes Kenya can barely manage its own waste, let alone recycle America's.
It will be importing more problems if we were to allow this US-Kenya trade deal to be used as a way of dumping plastic waste on the African continent.
Matia agrees countries should keep their waste in their own backyards, and she intends to make good on what she calls her triple threat.
The more we recycle the plastic, the more we produce affordable housing problem, the more we created more employment for the youth.
Which means there's no time to get too comfortable. Deborah Pata, Nairobi, Kenya.
After calling Hawaii home since its inception in 1947, the Hula Bowl is now moving to the University of Central Florida's Bounce House Stadium on January 15th. And for the first time, the College All-Star Game will include players from Japan, Canada, Australia, and the UK. The bowl was forced to move after Aloha Stadium was deemed unsafe for fans. The Tokyo Games are over, but its impact is here to stay. More openly LGBTQ athletes competed in these games than in all previous summer games combined. Will Ripley has more.
Out at the Olympics, out and proud. LGBTQ representation hit an all-time high in Tokyo, more than every other summer games combined. Outsports says if they had their own country, Out Olympians would rank 7th in the world with 56 medals, including a gold and a bronze for British diver Tom Daley.
I mean, it's great that we have more Out Olympians than ever before.
He says more work needs to be done. Being gay can still mean the death penalty in 9 Olympic nations.
You know, because I feel extremely lucky to be representing Great Britain, where I can have a husband and I can have my son and be, you know, and not have any ramifications.
As a guy.
Tom came out publicly in 2013. He married his husband Lance in 2017. Today, they have a young son, a modern family cheering him on.
I just hope that seeing more out athletes competing at the Olympic Games and in other sports, that any little kids out there that feel less than, feel alone, feel different and don't quite fit in, know that if they work hard, they can achieve anything. And just because of who they are isn't going to change what you're able to achieve.
Trailblazers like Daly make it easier for younger Olympians to come out, like 21-year-old Australian skateboarder Poppy Star Olsen.
We've come so far, and it's definitely, I know, a lot easier than it was, say, 20 years ago. I'm very lucky in skateboarding because skateboarding is very inclusive and had all these role models that I looked up to, so that really helped me a lot too.
Those role models from previous Olympics often battled stigma and shame. Australian diver Matthew Mitchum tried to train himself not to be gay. He says he numbed his pain with alcohol and drugs. Despite those struggles, Mitchum made history on two fronts in Beijing 2008.
That Olympic record I still have, but will be broken one day. But the one thing that nobody will ever be able to take away from me is the fact that I was the first openly gay man to win an Olympic gold medal. If that helps somebody else in their journey to being their authentic selves, then that is worth more than all of the gold medals that I could ever win in my career.
Mitchum says trans and non-binary athletes still battle stigma and discrimination.
A lot of work still needs to be done to, to make it safer for trans people of color to live and exist and thrive and flourish in this world.
A world that allows people, all people, to live and love. A goal that goes well beyond the Olympics. Will Ripley, CNN, Tokyo.
The internet's certainly still abuzz with all that Olympic news, but also we got to get to some business news that is really making headlines out there. The Cybertruck, which I really like. I know you had some opinions about it, but Tesla has quietly pushed back the production and the release date of its Cybertruck pickup truck till next year. Tesla's website now says customers will get to customize their truck when, quote, production nears in 2022. Tesla had already hinted the 2021 target may not be realistic. Obviously, there's car production problems happening all over, but I still think it looks cool.
Yeah.
Or not.
This is more my jam, though. So it's hot and it's cold and it's creamy and it's crunchy. So Marble Slab Creamery unveiled its new limited time only Flamin Hot Cheetos ice cream and milkshake. Now the mashup is available in stores nationally through the end of September. A regular size ice cream starts at $5.99 and the 20-ounce shake starts at $6.99.
Flamin' Hot is truly good on so many.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
It's so good. You used to be able to buy that powder. I don't know. I don't see it in the store anymore. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on Tuesday. Hang tight because we have a press conference coming up at 1:30 with Governor Ige. We're expecting the possibility of new restrictions being announced, possibly on gathering sizes of what's been hinted at. Again, that's coming up at 1:30, all KHNL, KGB, and K5 and HNN digital platforms.